In this video, we're going to talk about how you can add monthly comparatives into Xero using the Xero Budget Manager. Now, in previous videos, we've covered conversion balances. We've covered adding annual comparatives through this page by clicking Add Comparative Balances, but sometimes it's not enough. A lot of times, business owners are going to want at least a monthly comparative so that they can see, maybe seasonally, how their business was performing from the spring of last year to spring this year. And the easiest way to get those balances in the system is by using the Budget Manager. So let's go ahead and take a look at that today. So where do you access that? If you head over to Accounting and Reports, and I find the easiest way to find the report that you need is searching for it in the search box in the top right-hand corner, and we'll look for budget, and we want the Budget Manager specifically. Okay, so there's a couple of quirks on the screen to be aware of. In this case, we are going to add a monthly comparative historical balance, and then we're going to click Save. So something that helps us identify what this budget is that we're creating, especially if we go back and take a look at this later on. Now, our conversion date, the date that we intend to use Xero going forward, is January 1st, 2024. Now, if you look at the start date, now I can only go as far back as June 2023, but what if I wanted to bring over 3 or 4 years worth of monthly comparatives, right? If I want to bring up those balances month over month. Obviously, we're limited here on the screen. So if I were to say June 2023 actuals, we don't care for actuals right now. And then we're going to run the period for as long as we possibly can. We'll click Update. And so the earliest field on my screen that you can see now is June 2023. You can see all of the accounts in my chart of accounts. I've got all my revenue accounts, all of my cost of goods accounts, and then other income and expenses. Now, the hack is once we export this into a Google Sheet or an Excel, we can then manipulate the dates. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We can export this into, and I've done this into Google Sheets, so I'm going to hop over to that tab, but use the system that you're most comfortable with. And here I am in the monthly comparatives report. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit, just so you can see what we're working with. When you export that file, you're going to get a file that looks something like this, right? The December 2023. I actually deleted some of the columns to the right because when you do export it, let me actually just go back and export this file into Google Sheets and show you what this looks like. Okay, so notice if I come over here to the left-hand side, my very first column that I have is June 2023, which we saw was the earliest date that we could select in the Budget Manager. And then over to the right, it goes 24 months, right? Because that's the period that we chose. We don't care about all this right now because we're entering historical balances. So here's what I did. I've already reconfigured this file to make it work for us. So what I did was I deleted everything past our conversion date, which is January 1st, 2024. So all the dates 2024 and beyond deleted. And then I added a bunch of columns so that we could enter in and go back even further, right? So all the way back to, in my example, I want to go and bring comparatives back from January 2022. So that brings in 2 years worth of comparatives. Once you've entered in those columns, the next thing that you'll want to do is just complete the data for your fields, right? So these are your chart of accounts. Here are the account codes. For simplicity's sake, I've only entered in actuals for the sales account, for advertising, and you'll obviously want to complete this thing in full and then import that back into Xero. So let's go back to Xero and let's import this budget. So back on the Xero page, we're going to import that file. Okay, let's browse for the file that we just saved. Here's my monthly comparatives file, and I'm going to import that. Okay, so now that we've successfully imported our budget, 36 accounts with updated budgets, we can view the dates that have been affected, and you can see that Xero took the file going all the way back to January 2022. So let's take a look and see how we can run reporting that will reflect these actuals that we have entered. Let's confirm. And we'll run the income statement. And what we want is to use one of Xero's already baked in reports to get us started. So we have the budget variance report. Let's take a look at that. Great. So what Xero has done is it's taking the current month, and you can change this date range. So let's maybe change this to last quarter. And then we're going to compare this against the monthly comparatives historical balance that we had just created. We'll update that. So what it'll automatically do is pull in January through March 2024 from this budget that we created. We don't want that. We actually want to compare it to last year's actuals around the same time period. So we'll just edit the layout, and then we'll click on the header of the column. You can see here that we're pulling in January 1st through March 31st, 2024, and we're going to change that date so that it now shows January 2023 through March 2023. Well, obviously you want to update these as well. Let's just actually remove these so that we don't have columns that aren't working. Update that layout. And what you're getting here now is the comparative between Q1 in 2024 and Q1 in 2023. This year to last, this is the difference between our actuals in both sales and advertising. You can see the increases or decreases in spending over time. And this is really just going to help you better advise your clients. Now, this method does have one drawback in that when you're entering balances into the budget manager, we could only enter balances for the profit and loss accounts or the income statement accounts. We won't be able to make comparisons between balance sheet accounts with this method. So something to keep in mind there, and maybe one reason why you want to bring in historical transactions using one of Xero's supported conversion methods.